Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of EdTalks. Super excited to have Krista Stepney with me. Krista, welcome to EdTalks.
Thank you, Ed. I'm excited to be one of your guests.
Yeah, so Krista and I, we met first at a recent North Texas ACHE conference. We were both speakers. It was a cool stage, right? It was a stage that was in the middle and the audience was like wrapped around you. I thought that was kind of cool.
It was different. It was a cool setup.
Have you done that before? Been in that situation where you're in the
I have
middle?
not. I've been on that type of stage before, but it kind of gave me a feeling of like a TED Talk environment where you kind of still centered and the audience is around you.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I was really impressed with you as a person. And then when you spoke, you're so dynamic and the topic that you had. And I wanted to unpack that topic a little bit. But before we get there, Krista, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Krista Stepney. I'm a healthcare operations executive and strategic advisor. I have the privilege of working with healthcare organizations across the country and helping them to think about strategic transformation in many different ways. A lot of that is through the lens of how we think about equity and community health. So that's more of my professional background, but I am also a keynote speaker, which is really where you'll see my passion and love shine through. It's an opportunity for me to connect with different audiences and organizations to help them think about major topics around workplace culture, innovation, and our responsibility on being change makers.
Yeah, it's really cool. And we used to both work for the same firm at the same time, but we never crossed paths. So we're both
Yeah.
advisory board alumni. And so that's kind of cool. Yeah, I was really impressed just with not only the content of what you spoke about, but also the presentation style. So there were two key points, because I remembered because I was listening and watching, taking notes. But the two key things that you talked about was sort of this concept of what if and the concept of bold. You can start with either one. Can you unpack one of those for us and share more about it?
Sure. So a lot of my keynote talks really focus on the concept of the power of boldness and really recognizing this is a power that's within. We all have a measure of boldness. Even people that might identify as introverts or say they might be quieter, boldness can be expressed in different ways. Boldness is really being able to have courage to make a big decision. And those decisions could be anything from a personal or professional scale. But I really help people to unpack that using that power of boldness creates this opportunity to show up as a change maker. And a lot of times we think about notable celebrities or politicians or people across our history that have done big things. But my concept around boldness is letting everybody know that we all have a measure of the big thing that we're assigned to. And so helping people to understand that tapping into their own unique talents and gifts is the first step in being bold, because then you have a measure of understanding how you show up in different spaces. And then helping people to kind of move past this concept of fear or self-doubt or the validation of others to actually get started and do things that they're assigned to do. So that's the concept of boldness. Where I've teased off maybe a subtopic or category is around the concept of the power of what if. And this is really a talk that I share with different organizations that are really saying, Krista, innovation has become such a stale buzzword for our audience or our employees. How do we get people excited and energized more about what innovation means? And that connects back to boldness. The power of what if is really this concept of challenging the status quo, recognizing that what got us here may not be enough to sustain us in the present and may not be enough to propel us in the future. So the power of what if is reminding people that if they want to get to innovation, we've got to tap into the precursor of imagination. Imagination for some people might feel like a whimsical concept, but it's really this idea of saying, how do I push past what's today and consider what could be possible in the future? If you think about the concept of candles, right? Candles were the main source of light for a long time. And it took inventions like the one that Thomas Edison had of the light bulb and electricity to change how we thought about illuminating rooms. One of the quotes that I often share with people is, in a room full of candles or a world full of candles, be electricity, right? That's the whole concept of the power of what if. Where are there ways for us to be electricity in status quo environments? That could look like changing the way that we approach decision making, inviting different stakeholders to the table that have different diversity of thought or perspective. It could also mean changing the way that we even come to the table around creativity. So the power of what if is really helping people to say, are there ways for us to iterate on the current state of things and really start to challenge what we want to see in the future.
Yeah, I love both of those. I'm sure my audience wants to
Yeah.
hear a lot more. And again, we'll drop all your information on your speaking in the show notes so people can get to you and find you. How did you get it though? So this concept of bold and what if, obviously something had to happen to you in your life to get you to where you are. So what was there a catalyst?
That's funny that you said that, and I get asked that a lot. Now, I am an extrovert and I'm very charismatic, but I tell people my bold moments have come through in the stories of my professional career. There have been moments where I had to step up and maybe consider taking a leap and leaving a corporate opportunity to start businesses and ideas that I knew were important to what I wanted to see done in the world. So there's moments across my career where I've had to take some courageous steps and step outside my comfort zone to be able to do some things differently. I will also say that growing up, my parents always created this environment of being able to be curious and to question ideas and to be open and asking, why are we doing things this way? In a way that allowed me to have a very, very big imagination. And one of the things that I think actually differentiates me in my role today in the work that I do with my clients, because there is a understanding that change is constant. And if we can get comfortable in recognizing that, there is a way of recognizing that curiosity can actually help that change to feel a little bit more comfortable. So I would say the experiences across my life, the moments where I can trace back to my career where I had to take a big leap, are the moments where I think that boldness started being able to be strengthened in me.
Two two more questions. What would you say to someone who's listening, watching, and they're like, "Oh, this is a great concept, but I don't want to be that obnoxious person." Right? There's this perception that it's kind of obnoxious person or whatever. So I'm going to stay the way and be the quiet mouse. Any words of advice for that person?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is think about the things that you're most passionate. It may not be the thing that you're doing every day or calling it work or getting a paycheck for, but what are the things that you think about often? The ideas that you know swirl around, maybe the things that you even jot down and journal about. If you think about those things, when's the last time you've done something about it? And it could even be just mapping out an idea around it. It could be even just researching a new concept around it. That is a measure of boldness because you're stepping outside of the traditional ways of how you think and do. Another concept is for people who might be in midlife transition or say, "Krista, I don't even know where to get started." Because for most people, they say a stumbling block for them being bold is feeling stuck. Okay. I tell people that we often think that a big leap is what's needed, but sometimes it can just be two steps. So, what are two things that you can just commit to doing differently? It could be maybe calling a friend for advice, or maybe just sharing your idea with somebody that you've never done so before. Or the second thing could actually be purchasing a business license for that idea that you have. That's forward movement. That's actually getting unstuck and doing something about it. So those are the two things that I would share with people in the audience who are trying to say, what does it look like to be bold? I think what you said, Ed, about people think sometimes it can be loud or disruptive. It doesn't have to be. The expression for boldness looks different for other people. But I would say, think about it in daily steps, small movements. Because once you do some of those small movements over time, you'll look back and realize that you've actually changed your position on a lot of different things.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. And I think it's a super way of looking at things. Krista, how do people find out more about you? And whatever you tell us, I'm going to put in the show notes so people don't have to jot it down, but tell us.
Sure. The best way is through my website, www.kristastepney.com. That's the way to connect to all of my social channels. That's the way to learn a little bit more about the keynote talks that I offer around this concept of boldness. And it's a great way to join our community. We are a community of change makers in our own respective right, finding ways to see the impact and change that we're looking.
That's so awesome. Krista, you make me want to go find out the next time you're speaking so I can go and watch again and keep learning. So thank you so much for being a guest on EdTalks.
Thank you for the pleasure. I appreciate it.